everyone, and welcome. Get comfy, maybe grab a blanket, because you've just tuned into Scary Bedtime Stories. That's right, a series of bite sized tales designed to keep you up just a little bit later than you planned. Each story is told from my perspective, so you're right there with me, feeling every shiver, every creeping shadow, every unexplained noise. We're diving into the kinds of stories that make you double check the locks and listen a little too closely to the creaks in your house. So, if you're ready for some chills, some thrills, and maybe a little bit of what was that? Turn off the lights, and let's get started. Sweet dreams, or not. What do you see when you look in the mirror? Your reflection, right? But what if it wasn't just you? Today, we're exploring a chilling tale of an old house, a hidden attic, and a mirror that reflects something far more sinister than your own image. Get ready to question reality itself, because the reflection in the attic window is about to show you what lurks just beneath the surface. The old house creaked like a dying beast, a constant symphony of groans and whispers that never let you forget you were a trespasser in its ancient bones. My parents had inherited it from a great aunt I'd never met, a woman rumored to be eccentric, a recluse who'd filled the house with things. My summer project, deemed character building by my mom, was to help clear it out. I hated it. Dust motes danced in the weak sunlight filtering through the grimy windows, coating everything in a layer of decay. The air hung thick with the scent of mildew and forgotten memories. The worst part, though, was the attic. It was vast, stretching the entire length of the house, packed wall to wall with shadowy figures draped in white sheets. Furniture, portraits, mannequins, everything felt like it was watching me with vacant, accusing eyes. I avoided it as much as possible, focusing on the less oppressive rooms downstairs. But today, Mom insisted. There might be something valuable up there, honey. Aunt Alara was particular. Just be careful. Particular. That was one word for a woman who apparently collected taxidermied squirrels wearing tiny hats. Armed with a flashlight and a healthy dose of dread, I ascended the creaking attic stairs. The air grew colder with each step, a tangible chill that seeped into my bones. The single bare bulb hanging from the rafters cast long, distorted shadows that danced with every slight movement. I started systematically, peeling back the sheets on each object. A chipped porcelain doll with vacant blue eyes. A moth-eaten tapestry depicting a scene I couldn't quite decipher. A stack of yellowed newspapers filled with stories of local tragedies. Nothing of value, just more creepy clutter. Then I saw it. At the far end of the attic, beneath a pile of dusty blankets, was a tall, ornate cheval mirror. The frame was carved with writhing vines and grotesque faces, their mouths open in silent screams. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. Okay, I mumbled to myself, trying to sound braver than I felt. Just look at it, make sure it's not solid gold or something, and move on. I tugged at the blankets, finally freeing the mirror. The glass was surprisingly clean, reflecting the dim light of the attic with unsettling clarity. I took a hesitant step closer. My reflection wavered back at me. But something was wrong. The girl in the mirror wasn't me. Not exactly. She had my face, my hair, my clothes, but her eyes were different. They were wider, darker, filled with an unreadable intensity. A flicker of something, malevolent, danced within their depths. I blinked. When I opened my eyes, the reflection was normal again. Just me, standing in a dusty attic, looking tired and slightly scared. It's just the light, I told myself, my voice trembling slightly. It's playing tricks on me. I reached out to touch the mirror, to reassure myself that it was just glass and silver. As my fingers brushed the cool surface, a jolt of static electricity shot through me. I recoiled, shaking my hand. And then it happened again. This time, the change was slower, more deliberate. My reflection's lips curved into a slow, knowing smile. Her eyes widened, the pupils dilating until they were almost black. Her skin seemed to pale, becoming almost translucent. I gasped, stumbling backward. This wasn't just a trick of the light. This was something else. My reflection raised a hand, mirroring my movement. But instead of simply lifting her hand, she gestured towards me, beckoning me closer. The smile on her face widened, becoming grotesque, predatory. Panic seized me. I wanted to scream, but my throat was frozen. I wanted to run, but my feet were rooted to the floor. I was trapped, caught in the gaze of my own distorted reflection. Then, she spoke. Her voice wasn't mine. It was deeper, raspier, laced with a chilling undercurrent of something ancient and cruel. "Come," she whispered, the sound seeming to echo from the very walls of the attic. "Come play with me." The air grew colder, the shadows darker. I could feel a presence in the attic, something unseen, something hungry. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that this thing in the mirror wanted me. I squeezed my eyes shut, clamping my hands over my ears. "No!" I screamed, my voice cracking with fear. "Leave me alone." I stood there for what felt like an eternity, trembling, waiting for the nightmare to resume. Finally, hesitantly, I opened my eyes. The attic was just as it had been before, dusty and silent. The reflection in the mirror was normal, my own pale, terrified face staring back at me. Had I imagined it? Was I just stressed, sleep-deprived, and susceptible to the house's creepy atmosphere? I wanted to believe that. Desperately. But as I stared into the mirror, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. A faint scratch on the glass, just below my reflection's right eye. A scratch that definitely hadn't been there earlier. And then I saw it move. So small, so subtle, barely perceptible. But it was there. The corner of my reflection's mouth twitched upwards, just for a fraction of a second. A silent, knowing smile. I backed away from the mirror slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't take my eyes off it, not for a moment. I knew, deep down, that whatever had been in that mirror wasn't gone. It was still there, waiting. Watching. I fled the attic, tripping over a pile of forgotten books, scrambling down the stairs. I didn't stop running until I was outside, gasping for breath in the familiar sunshine. I told my parents what had happened, or at least, a watered-down version of it. I said I felt sick, that the attic was making me claustrophobic. They looked at me with concern, but I could see the skepticism in their eyes. They thought I was being dramatic. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves outside my window, sounded like footsteps in the attic. I kept imagining that face in the mirror, that chilling smile, those dark, hungry eyes. Finally, around 3 a.m., I drifted off into a fitful sleep, plagued by nightmares. In my dream, I was back in the attic. The mirror loomed before me, its surface shimmering. My reflection beckoned, the grotesque smile wider than ever. I tried to run, but I couldn't move. My feet were stuck to the floor. The reflection reached out, her fingers lengthening into claws, her eyes burning with an unholy light. She lunged. I woke up screaming, drenched in sweat. I was alone in my room, the darkness pressing in on me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was still being watched. I got out of bed and walked to the window, peering out into the moonlit garden. Everything seemed normal, peaceful. Then I looked up. At the attic window. And there, silhouetted against the moonlight, was a figure. A figure that looked just like me. She raised her hand and waved. I slammed the curtains shut, collapsing to the floor. I stayed there for the rest of the night, huddled in a ball, listening to the relentless creaking of the house. I haven't been back to the attic since. And I never will be. But sometimes, when I catch my reflection in a window or a mirror, I see it. Just a flicker. A shadow in my eyes. A hint of a smile that isn't mine. And I know that she's still there. Waiting. Playing a very long, very patient game. And I'm starting to think. She's winning. Sleep tight. You never know what might be reflecting back at you. What's the scariest thing you can imagine? For me, it's the feeling of being watched, from a place you can't see. We're exploring that fear with Shadows Beneath the Bed. This isn't just a ghost story, it's a deep dive into the human psyche, where the shadows hold more than just darkness. Get ready to have your sense of reality twisted. Let's get started. The apartment was a dim, cluttered space, the kind Jake and I had shared since we'd bailed on the suburbs. Tonight, it was my turn to entertain him with a scary story, a ritual we'd kept alive since childhood, despite the fact we were both in our early 20s and should probably be doing something more adult. Shadows stretched across the walls, distorted by the flickering neon sign outside, creating an uneasy atmosphere. Jake, sprawled on the worn couch under a faded superhero blanket, gave me a look that was half expectant, half mocking. "All right, Jake," I said, my voice dropping to a theatrical whisper, "you ever wonder what really goes on under the bed?" He rolled his eyes, a smirk tugging at his lips. "Mia, seriously? We're not kids anymore. You're not gonna pull that monster under the bed crap, are you?" "Oh, it's not monsters," I replied, a sly grin spreading across my face. "It's something else. Something far more interesting." "Fine, whatever," he said, shifting on the couch, "just make it quick. I have a late shift tomorrow." "Once upon a time," I began, letting the old-fashioned phrasing hang in the air, "in a town shrouded in perpetual fog, there lived a guy named Oliver. He was obsessed with horror stories, just like you, but he was also a skeptic. He thought it was all just fiction." I watched Jake, whose eyes, despite his skepticism, held a spark of morbid curiosity. Oliver spent his nights alone, reading under the covers, feeding his dark fascination. One stormy night, he found an old, leather-bound book in his grandfather's dusty attic, a collection of terrifying tales. The first story was about a bed that could trap not only dreams but also nightmares. Jake snorted. "Sounds like a bad B-movie." "Just listen," I said, ignoring him. Oliver, of course, thought it was ridiculous. But then, a gust of wind slammed the window, flipping the pages to a story titled, "The Girl Beneath the Bed." This ghost girl skulked under beds, waiting to drag people into her twisted world. Oliver, being a hardened cynic, almost laughed. Almost. But then, things started to get weird. Whispers spread through town. People talked about a shadow, a presence that brushed past them in the dark. Some heard sobbing, others their names being called in the dead of night. Oliver, still stubborn, dismissed it all. Until one night, during a particularly violent thunderstorm, he saw something move under his bed. He leaned over, heart pounding, but saw nothing. Just dust bunnies and the usual underbed debris. Then, the basement door creaked open, and a cold gust of wind swept up the stairs. Just the house settling, he told himself. But the shadows started to dance, to twist. He, being an idiot, decided to taunt the darkness. "If there's anyone down there, show yourself," he yelled. And, of course, Jake interrupted, something did. Glowing eyes appeared, shimmering in the dark. A voice, hoarse and desperate, whispered, "Help me." Oliver, despite his bravado, was freaked. He asked who it was. The voice replied, "The girl beneath the bed. They left me here. They always leave me here." The girl materialized, a ghostly outline, tattered and translucent. She told Oliver she needed his help finding the others, those trapped like her. Why me? He asked. She said, because you're brave enough to listen. You must help me. She told him to find what was lost, to help me find the others. They are trapped just as I am. Then we can be free. Oliver, thinking of local disappearances, realized it was happening. Beneath the bed, she said, the truth lies waiting. He tried to get her to come out, but she said she couldn't leave until the truth was uncovered. Then she vanished, leaving him staring into the dark under his bed. He looked under, found nothing but the book, and as he reached for it, felt a cold breath on his neck. Don't let them see you, the girl whispered. He asked who they were. Hungry shadows that thirst for fear, she said. Look beyond the shadows. So, being the idiot he is, he reached into the dark. The shadows swirled, pulling him down. He saw a hidden world, a dark expanse filled with lost children and a tall, dark figure that radiated pure evil. He was pulled back, shaken. The girl told him to find the others. He spent days obsessing over the book, finding patterns, clues. He learned fear was a shield. He went back under the bed. The shadows recoiled from his fear. He found the kids, led them to the edge, and they disappeared, free. He came back, the shadows less menacing. He knew he'd keep going back, helping them. I paused, looking at Jake. He was staring at me, his eyes wide. And that, I said, is why you should always check under your bed. Mia, that was, actually kind of creepy, Jake admitted, pulling the blanket tighter. But seriously, we need to get a better apartment. This place is giving me the heebie-jeebies. As we wrap up tonight's scary bedtime story, I want to take a moment to reflect on what we've shared together. These stories may be unsettling, but they also serve as reminders of the power of imagination, the unknown, and how we face our fears. I hope that, as you lie in bed tonight, you remember that sometimes the scariest things aren't what we see in the shadows but what we feel inside. Thank you for joining me in this journey into the dark. I hope these tales will linger in your thoughts and keep you questioning what's real and what's not. Until next time, remember, the scariest stories are the ones we don't tell, and the ones we live. Sleep tight, if you can. Hey, horror fans. If you enjoyed our chilling tales and want to keep the spine-tingling stories coming, don't forget to hit that like button. Your support keeps the darkness alive. Share this video with your friends, let's spread the fear together. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you never miss a hair-raising moment. Join our community of thrill seekers and prepare for more eerie adventures. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay scared.